Have you ever wondered why some stories feel like they're speaking directly to your soul, even when they unfold in galaxies far away, in magical castles, or within dystopian futures you've never lived? Why do we cry when a hero falls, feel chills when a villain reveals his true face, or find unexpected comfort in the words of a wise old mentor? It's not just nostalgia or good storytelling. It's something older, something deeper. Beneath the layers of plot, music, and special effects, there are patterns, invisible threads that bind us to the tale being told. These stories echo ancient whispers from the collective unconscious. They speak in the language of archetypes, and they've been speaking to you even if you didn't realize it. Perhaps without knowing it, you've been searching for yourself in those stories, and perhaps you've already been found, reflected in them. Think back. Maybe you once watched a film alone in the dark, the glow of the screen painting shadows on your face. Maybe you were just a child when the hero made a choice that broke your heart, and you didn't know why it mattered so much. You didn't know why your chest tightened when the chosen one stood up one last time, or why the fall of the villain felt strangely familiar, even tragic. That's not fiction. That's recognition. Somewhere inside you were remembering. Because even if you've never held a sword, trained with a master, or stood at the edge of the world, your soul has, in dreams, in longings, in silent prayers uttered through pain. The stories we love are not just entertainment, they are mirrors. And sometimes they are keys. They unlock doors inside us that reason alone can't reach. They bypass logic and speak straight to the part of you that remembers how it feels to be betrayed, to believe in something bigger, to fall and rise again. That's why you still carry those moments inside you. The scene where the hero loses everything, or the line that made you feel seen for the first time in years. These stories are not about distant heroes. They're about you. You, the silent warrior who survived childhood wounds. You, the seeker who kept walking even when the path vanished. You, the forgotten child who longed to be chosen. You, who wears masks every day but secretly dreams of being real. Pop culture didn't invent these characters. They are ancient. They existed before cinema, before writing, before memory. They were whispered around fires in the dark, stories of gods, monsters, lovers, rebels, saviors, destroyers, and they live in you still. That's why when a story hits you like lightning, it's not random, it's resonance. You're not just watching a film, you're remembering your own myth, and maybe you're finally ready to stop watching and start living it. We often imagine archetypes as distant intellectual concepts, something studied in books or discussed in psychological circles. But they are not theories. They are living realities, silent companions that walk with us from the moment we take our first breath. Archetypes are not invented, they are discovered. They rise from the collective unconscious like ancient roots, breaking through the surface of a modern world. No matter where we are born, what language we speak, or what century we inhabit, they find us. They live beneath culture, beneath memory, beneath our personal story. They are patterns of existence, not roles we play, but truths we carry. The mother, the hero, the outcast, the sage, the trickster, the lover, the destroyer. These are not just characters. They are energies, forces that shape how we love, how we fight, how we run, and how we come back. They show up in our dreams, our fears, our obsessions, and most of all, they show up in the stories we tell again and again across generations. Carl Jung called them primordial images. They are blueprints etched in the psyche, not by society, but by life itself. They help us make sense of chaos. They guide us when we are lost. They give form to the formless pain, desire, rage, and hope that live inside every human being. You don't need to understand them intellectually to be ruled by them. When you fall in love with someone who feels like home, you are entering the field of the lover archetype. When you sabotage your own success, laughing it off while hiding your fear of being seen, the trickster is at play. When you feel the weight of invisible expectations, trying to be good while something wild stirs beneath your surface, you are dancing with the shadow of the rebel. When you feel called to leave everything behind and begin again, not knowing why, the hero has awakened. These forces don't ask for your permission. They shape your longings, your patterns, your suffering, and your potential. They are not moral. They are not safe. But they are real. And they live inside you, whether you see them or not. The danger is not in being influenced by archetypes. That is inevitable. The danger is in being unconscious of them, because what you do not recognize will rule you from the shadows. You will call it fate. You will call it personality. But it is the unconscious speaking. This is why we are drawn to stories, not to escape reality, but to understand it. The dragon in the fairy tale is not just a monster. It is your fear, your addiction, your grief, your rage. The treasure is not gold. It is wholeness, healing, integration. And the hero, the one who dares to face the darkness, that is the self, reaching toward consciousness. When you understand archetypes, you begin to see your life differently. Not as a series of random events, but as a sacred pattern unfolding. Every heartbreak, every detour, every failure becomes part of a myth larger than you, and yet deeply yours. We are not blank slates. We are not machines. We are stories walking in human skin. And the archetypes, they are the language of our soul. Look closer at the stories you love, not with your eyes, but with your inner vision. Beneath the costumes, beyond the plots, something ancient is breathing through them. A myth reborn in modern skin. This is the soul of pop culture, not entertainment but echo. Think of Star Wars. On the surface, it's a sci-fi saga with spaceships and lightsabers, but in truth, it is the hero's journey carved in cosmic stone. Luke Skywalker is not just a farm boy, he is the archetypal hero awakening to destiny. Obi-Wan, the wise old man. Darth Vader, the shadow. Yoda, the sage. Each character is not merely written, they are summoned. Called forth from the collective unconscious like actors from a sacred drama we've seen before. Why does it move us when Luke gazes at the twin suns in silence? Because we too have stared at our own horizon, aching for more. That moment is not fiction. It's memory, soul memory, or take the Matrix. Neo is the reluctant chosen one, unaware of his true power. Morpheus is the prophet. Trinity, the sacred feminine. Agent Smith, the force of control, the false order that must be shattered. This is not just cyberpunk philosophy. It is a modern initiation myth, the awakening of the self from the illusion of the world. And when Neo chooses the red pill, something in you stirs. Because you felt it too, the sense that the world isn't what it seems, that something within you is sleeping, waiting to rise. These stories don't teach us something new, they awaken what we've forgotten. In Harry Potter, the orphaned child with a lightning scar becomes the bearer of light in a dark world. He's marked not just by fate, but by trauma, the wound that becomes a portal. Dumbledore, the mentor. Voldemort, the shadow self, a being split by fear of death. The castle, a symbolic psyche full of hidden rooms and secrets. Every spell, every creature, every mirror is symbolic. When Harry sees his parents in the mirror of Erised, he's not just grieving. He's confronting the ache of the soul for what was lost, and the danger of being trapped in illusion. This is the journey through the unconscious, disguised as fantasy. Even in darker stories, like Breaking Bad, we see the archetype of the shadow rising. Walter White doesn't just become a villain. He becomes the part of the psyche that has been suppressed, humiliated, ignored. The man who breaks and becomes power. This is not entertainment. This is psychological alchemy, the descent into the underworld. Pop culture is not shallow. It is sacred, though it wears the mask of the ordinary. Because what is culture, if not a dream the collective is dreaming? Each blockbuster, each series that holds us captive is a mirror. When you watch, something watches back, not from the screen, from within. You feel it when a character says the thing you've never said aloud, when a scene makes you weep, though you don't know why. That is the archetype speaking, not to your mind but to your soul. We underestimate these stories because they come wrapped in pixels and profits, but the psyche does not care about format. It cares about meaning. This is why we revisit these tales, why we quote them, wear them, dream them. They are myths with modern bones, They are the ancient language of becoming, translated into light and sound. They teach us not by explaining, but by embodying. They don't give answers. They awaken questions. And in those questions, the soul begins to stir. There's a reason your heart clenches at the climax of a story, why you feel something shift inside when the hero loses everything, or when the villain reveals the wound behind the cruelty. It's not just empathy. It's not just good writing, it's recognition of the archetype at work within you. When a character sacrifices themselves, you remember the part of you that gave up something sacred, for love, for survival, for someone who never returned. When a mask falls away on screen, your own masks tremble. When the monster is finally seen not as evil but as broken, you feel your own hidden wounds cry out. Because the archetypes that move through stories are not confined to fiction. They are mirrors of your own psychological landscape. They don't live on screens. They live in the corridors of your being. Imagine this. You are not watching a movie, you are walking through your own inner castle. Every character you meet is a fragment of you, the brave one, the coward, the innocent, the manipulator, the one who runs, the one who stays. Each holds a key, each is asking to be seen. The archetype of the hero speaks when you decide to try again, even after failure. The shadow speaks when you lash out at someone you love and don't understand why. The orphan speaks when you fear being abandoned and overcompensate by pleasing. The warrior speaks when you protect your boundaries for the first time, even while shaking. These moments are not random, they are mythic. The psyche is not linear, it is symbolic. It doesn't speak in facts, it speaks in dreams, in images, in patterns, and the patterns in stories resonate with the patterns in your life, because both are shaped by the same invisible architect. This is why certain scenes stay with you. They're not just dramatic, they're symbolic. A door that won't open, a child left behind, a fall from grace, a reunion at the edge of death. These images live in you, and when you see them outside, something inside opens. A wound, a memory, a longing. You may think you're alone in your journey, but the truth is, millions carry the same myth within them, with different names and faces. That's why a stranger's story can make you cry. You're not just witnessing their pain, you're remembering your own, and that memory is healing. The culture we consume is not neutral. It shapes us, not by force, but by resonance. It tells us who we are allowed to be, and who we've forgotten we are. That's why recognizing archetypes in stories is not about analysis. It's about awakening. It's about learning to read the world symbolically. To see your heartbreak not as failure, but as initiation. To see your longing not as weakness, but as sacred direction. This shift, from literal to symbolic, is where transformation begins. You are not just someone who watches stories, you are someone who is a story. And every time you resonate with a narrative, it's because the soul is whispering, "This is your language, don't forget it." What if your life was not random? What if every sorrow, every joy, every strange twist in your path wasn't chaos, but choreography? Not by fate, not by some distant god, but by the archetypal self within you, weaving your journey like an old myth waiting to be remembered. Imagine for a moment that your story is a sacred map, not a broken path. That the rejection that shattered you was your call to adventure. That the loneliness you carry is your time in the wilderness. That the fear you run from is the dragon at the gate of transformation. Not because life is fair, not because pain is beautiful, but because the psyche speaks through story, and your soul has always been trying to get your attention. We are taught to look outside for guidance, to follow other people's maps, but the deeper truth is, you've always had your own. It's been unfolding in silence, through heartbreaks and synchronicities, betrayals and breakthroughs. The archetypes aren't just in books or on screens, they are walking through your days, disguised as ordinary people and moments. The mentor you met for only a season, who said the one thing you never forgot. The shadow figure who pushed every button, awakening your deepest rage. The lover who showed you what intimacy could be, then vanished, leaving only the ache. The child within you who still believes in something more. These are not accidents. They are encounters with your own soul, mirrored in the outer world. And each time you face them, truly face them, something in you begins to integrate. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole, not perfect, not enlightened, whole. It means turning toward what you've exiled within yourself. It means seeing the masks you wear and daring to remove them. It means embracing both your light and your darkness, not as enemies but as essential parts of the self. And the stories we love are not just distractions, they are reminders. Reminders that every myth is a map, and every archetype is a voice from the soul asking, "Are you listening?" So the next time you feel moved by a film or haunted by a scene that won't leave you, don't dismiss it. Ask yourself, why did this stir something in me? What part of my own journey is being revealed? What truth have I buried that this story just awakened? Because maybe you're not lost. Maybe you're mid-story. Maybe you're just now reaching the part where everything begins to make sense, not because it's easy, but because it's finally real. You were never meant to live a flat, predictable life. You were meant to become, to walk through fire, fall into the underworld, wrestle with your shadow and rise again, not as who you were, but as who you truly are. Not everyone will see your journey, not everyone will understand your myth, but that doesn't matter. The question is, will you honor it? Will you live it? Because you are not just the one reading the myth, you are the one becoming it. Have you ever wondered why a single scene from a story stays with you for years, more vividly than your own memories? Why a fictional journey can awaken tears you didn't know were waiting? It's because the myth was never outside you. It was never just a movie, never just a book. It was your soul, speaking in symbols, aching to be remembered. So I ask you now, gently but deeply, what archetype is asking to awaken in you? What shadow have you refused to meet? What story are you living, unconsciously, that's quietly shaping your entire life? And what would change if you began to live it with awareness? What if you saw your wounds as gateways, your mistakes as chapters, and your fears as guides in disguise? What if you stopped trying to fix yourself, and instead listened to the ancient myth unfolding within you? Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." This video wasn't meant to entertain you, it was meant to remind you, to invite you to awaken. So if something stirred inside you, a quiet recognition, a tear, a spark of truth, don't let it fade. Honor it. Sit with it. Reflect on your life not as a series of events, but as a sacred narrative longing to be lived fully. And now I ask you, where are you watching this from? What story has shaped you the most? Tell me in the comments. If this message touched something true in you, consider supporting this channel with a super thanks. It helps keep this sacred work alive, reaching those who are quietly searching, just like you once were. Don't forget to subscribe. There are more stories to explore, more truths to remember, more of you to discover. Your journey isn't over, it's just beginning.